And we're live. Today is Monday, August 16th at 9:28 a.m. I'm a couple minutes early. I'm feeling like a go-getter spirit today. This is the live Q&A where you can come in, ask any questions, and you get kind of like a free half hour, 45 minutes of consulting. Try to answer as many questions as possible. So if you're struggling with any campaigns or if you have a question, we're spending close to $2 million monthly now in Google Ads across like 150 accounts. So we have a lot of experience in a lot of different areas. So anything that you have questions about, please feel free to let me know. In terms of Google news, not sure if people have been watching the new videos we've been posting on the channel, but I'm testing the lead form only campaigns, and they just as expected, have not really been the best. Lead forms, I compared them closely to Facebook's lead ads, where they don't really make it to your site. The ad copy is the only thing that they see, and they get to fill it out right from the search. But what's different about the new lead form extensions is not necessarily the extension. It's the entire ad now. So if you click anywhere in the headline, rather than going to the website like you normally would, it would pop open a lead box. And that lead box, you get to take care of or you get to show your call to action and have people opt in. The questions aren't really customizable, which that's the only issue that I'm having with this entire thing. There's questions that we ask like, are you currently running Google Ads? What's your current ad spend? E-commerce lead generation. All those I can't fill in. So if Google, if you're listening, if Google ever is able to customize those questions or where we can place our own questions in there, I think this would be a home run. But unfortunately, it's limited to very, very few specific questions that, in my opinion, are just not enough. I don't think that Google can lock you into a box of predetermined questions and it show any good long-term success. So I'm testing it. I'll keep you guys posted. Sam, hey John. Hey Sam, how are you? Hope we're doing good. So yeah, I've got a few people coming in now. So anybody has any questions, I'm just here for you right now. So just finally getting over it. It turned out to be COVID. I'm just kind of quarantining myself in my office. I have a executive suite here that's just, a singular room. So I meet her at home or here at the office. But when I'm here at the office, I don't have my two daughters kind of knocking on my door trying to hang out with daddy. So it's just easier for me to get work done here. But yeah, I'm almost out of it. To have a little bit of a cough left, just tiny cough. But other than that, good to go. Like I said, it's going to take a lot more than COVID to put me down. Alejandro, hey, do you know of any books where I can learn more about selling Google Ads as a service? Or do you know any courses that talk about this? Selling it? No, not necessarily. What's really interesting is we've been obviously doing PPC for many years now. And the one thing that I've learned is, and I've sold to big companies. We have clients that spend, $200,000 and $300,000 a month. And what I learned is that any sort of cookie cutter or anything that is not completely customized to that individual's current business needs, goals, objections, pain points that they're experiencing, it's not going to work. It could be a small, $500 per month spend or $100,000 a month spend. Their issues are identical. They're looking to scale, or their cost per lead is too high, or there's not enough leads. And being able to dissect what's currently going on and provide an actionable plan is everything to them. And that is the absolute best way to sell Google Ads. Is building a plan specific to them, knowing that you have heard their pain points, you understand their needs, and you can say, if we do this, this, and this, based on this, showing this as an example, this is a way to get from A to B. It's very difficult to say, here's a slideshow presentation about how we're awesome. Everyone has that. No one cares. It's a nice to have, but it doesn't talk about how you're going to help them. So in terms of selling, everything that we do is 100% custom. We have no cookie cutter. We have best practices, but we don't have any cookie cutter saying like, yep, just slap our same 5 campaigns on there and hopefully it works. So if I can just give any words of wisdom for selling this, it has to be unique and customizable to the individual lead. If not, you're going to sound like everyone else, and they're just going to judge you solely on price. That's how that works. Wow, we have a lot of questions flying in. Okay, Sam, smart shopping campaign budget is $5.90 a day. Google is suggesting to increase it to $1,000 a day. Is it safe for campaign performance, or should it increase budget only by 10%? The campaign is running for 3 months, spend 46,000, and the conversion value is 172, 376 ROAS, 46 conversions. So should I set T ROAS 601 Google recommendation? Because performance in the past 7-8 days has been excellent, or should I let it run without a ROAS goal? I'm getting a good return. What can I learn from the highest selling products to optimize the feed so that other products do well? How can I assign GTM because we sell customized products? Placements great. Okay, so your budget's $590. You do not have a return on ad spend goal yet. What I would say is, if Google's recommending you set a 601, my opinion is set at 500 and then actually crank it up to $1,000 or 1,000. I'm not sure exactly the currency. I was just gonna say dollars, but set it up to $1,000 a day. What's gonna happen is, because you have a 500% ROAS goal and you set 1,000, you may see it only go up to like 750, which is fine. What you're doing is you're setting a safety net by saying, okay, I need at least 500%. You can crank this thing literally. If you put it set at 500 ROAS on there, 500% ROAS goal, a T ROAS, you can crank this thing up to 10,000 a day. Doesn't matter. What will happen is it's going to Indian rupee. Cool. You can set it to 10,000 Indian rupee a day. But if you have a 500% ROAS goal, it's only going to spend as many rupees as it knows it can spend in order to get that achieved. So the risk of running it wide open without a ROAS is, when you increase, your ROAS could go down to 200%, and Google's like, oh, good performance. That's not necessarily the case. The only good performance is indicative of what you say is good performance. So I would set a 500% ROAS goal, crank that thing up to 1,000, see what you can spend. And then whatever you can spend, let's say it's 800 rupees a day, I would take that 800 rupees a day, take the 1,000 rupee budget, move it down to 900, and then remove the ROAS goal, and then allow some time there. Because what you're doing is you're giving it 20% more budget than what it needs in order to hit that goal, but that's going to get it to scale. Don't just set it to right now whatever Google would say without a ROAS, because it will spend that, but you won't necessarily get the performance. But if you set a 500% ROAS goal, then crank up that rupee to 1,000 rupees per day, that's when you'll find out what Google can spend with that safety net of 500. It shouldn't go below 500. It might, but it might down to like 450, 475. It shouldn't go too much further down from there. So that's why you set that kind of safety net and saying like, hey, spend whatever you can spend as long as you can get this, and Google will do that. So that would be my suggestion first. To answer your next question, what can you learn from the highest selling products to optimize the feed so other products can do well? This is a little bit more of a harder question to answer, because what Google is doing is a lot more than just feed. Feed plays a part of it, but demand and audience size plays a bigger role than just feed. And so what you can necessarily take out of the feed from those best-selling products is, are those titles and descriptions using more nouns than the other products are? It could also just be that those products have a bigger market demand, and it won't necessarily translate into other products. The best way to see how Google is interpreting your feed is to run a standard shopping campaign, but I wouldn't recommend it right now. So don't do that, because you're just going to kill your performance of your smart shopping campaign. So with your smart shopping campaign, when you run without a return on ad spend goal, you're going to give the campaign more time for more products. And you're going to find the other products, if you have a lot more products, you'll find other products that are going to start performing just as good as your main products are right now. And that's why you usually let it run up to whatever ROAS it can get at 500, or at whatever spend it can get at 500 ROAS, and then remove the ROAS goal and then lower the budget to just above what it is currently getting on per daily budget. That's a way for it to say, hey, get good performance, but spend additional 100 or 200 rupees per day finding other products or expanding. So that's my recommendation to get that one to scale. With the feed, it's really difficult. It's usually up to interpretation. Do you believe that title and description is better than the other products? First thing to look at is nouns. Google knows nouns. It doesn't necessarily know adjectives. It doesn't know branded terms. It knows nouns. So focus on the nouns. That's going to be the biggest differentiator, I would say. Next one is, okay, Drones Cam. Hi, John. How can I find my product's conversion time lag? Do you have any suggestion? Thanks a lot. And was that your only question? Perfect. So what you want to do is look at, you got to do two things. Make sure you have the conversion column enabled on your campaigns page. So the home page of campaigns, make sure your conversion column is enabled. And then in the graph, the two graphs that you have, like if you have a clicks versus impressions or whatever it is, change that to conversions, and you should pop up a blue line. And that blue line, wherever that blue line starts, that's where the conversion lag is. And if you hover over that bubble where the blue line starts, there should be a little bubble there. That will say, hey, on average, it takes X amount of days from first impression to the point of conversion. That's going to be your time lag. So just hover over that bubble, but you have to have the conversion column enabled, and you have to have one of those graphs say conversions, and then you should get a blue line through your date range. Alejandro, also, can I donate to you and your company? You have helped me start my career as a PPC specialist. So I want to thank you guys. Oh, I don't know if we have like a donation. We might be starting like a Patreon soon. But yeah, I don't really necessarily have any donation portions yet, but I appreciate it. Appreciate it, Alejandro. Thank you. That's thank you enough, I guess I should say. If you want to hire us to help, that would also help too. Let's see here. Kirby, I'm a national mortgage lender. How can we rank? Was there? Oh, there we go. I have a national mortgage lender, but we don't have an office in all states. We want to use Google Local Services or Maps, but we don't have a physical address to confirm the cards Google sends. How can we rank? So if you're talking about ranking for your Google My Business, it's impossible to rank everywhere for Google My Business. It's just not going to happen. Google will not give you national placement for a Google My Business. Best thing I would say is don't use necessarily local services. I'd run good old-fashioned Google ads for that. We have a lot of small localized businesses, naturopaths, masonry contractors, painters, those type of clients. They still perform better in a larger radius by running the Google ads with a location extension, but you're never going to get just Google My Business to rank farther out than like a 20-30 mile radius, maybe. Google just won't allow it. So I would say if you want to rank, far and wide and national, run a good old-fashioned Google Ads search campaign, get good placement by obviously bidding high or use target search impression share, and then run a location extension for those localized areas. But without a location everywhere, you're not going to rank Google My Business, outside of your local geographic area. Next question. Let's see. How to analyze Google auction insights properly and win the auction. Haha. All right, so good question. Here's the first thing that people overlook in auction insights: the overlap. Overlap is probably one of the most important sections in the auction insights, because that tells you how much the other metrics mean. As an example, you can have someone that outranks you 70% of the time, and they can have absolute top placement of 100% of the time, and you have absolute top placement of 70% of the time. It may look horrible, but if the overlap is 5%, what that means is that 5% of the time they beat you. And then now you're like, oh, well, I don't really care. That might be one keyword that we overlap and they beat me, but I beat them on 95 other percent. It's because they just don't go after those keywords. So here's what's important. Look at the overlap between you and your competitors. If that number is below 15%, ignore it, because it just means that 15% of the time they outrank you 60% of the time, and that's not enough to actually change your structure of your campaigns in order to beat that, because it's going to beat it so small in such a minute time that it doesn't actually equate to better performance in your campaign. It's just now become like a vanity play. Like, no, I need to beat them 100% of the time. So look at overlap. Anybody that is above 20, 25%, those are who's actually affecting your campaigns and auction insights, because it says, hey, 1 out of 5 searches, this person beats you 50% of the time. Well, is that really important? Maybe not really. So that's what the overlap rank is, the number one thing to look at, because everything else doesn't matter if you only overlap 10% of the time. That just means, hey, they beat you 100% of the time, but 10% of the time when it happens. So you see how that works. So that overlap rank is what's really, really, really important. See, contrast market. Hey, I have 2 campaign shopping Google ad, one $80 a day with 400 products and the other $50 a day with like 3 products. Same 3 products are in the first campaign also is a good strategy. If they're smart shopping campaigns, no. Try to keep everything into one campaign if it's smart shopping, because what's going to happen, contrast, is check this out. If it is a smart shopping campaign, what you're gonna find is that people that are clicking on those 3 products might be buying other things, and now it's not real performance. It just means that people click on that ad and then buy something else. Just like in the other campaign, people click on that ad and buy something else, and those two may be overlapping. There's a way to do this where if you go into Google Analytics, go into e-commerce, and then go into product performance, overlay the Google Ads campaign ID, and then look at what the Google Ads campaign ID is saying it's selling versus what your Google Ads campaign is selling. And an easy way to identify if you have a product that has X amount of sales, but is a $10 product with 3 sales, and it doesn't equal $30, it means that that is not the product that was sold. Or if you have, like, let's say $50 from those 3 sales, it means that they clicked on that and either bought 2 or bought something else or bought one of them and something else. So just because you're splitting performance, all you really know is people are clicking on that ad to buy something. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's the product that is sold. That's a very important distinction. When you understand that, you're like, oh, well, these 2 campaigns might not actually be doing any better or worse than each other. It just means that that's a better performing ad. Well, if you stick that all in one campaign, you're going to learn faster off of all the products into one singular campaign. It's going to perform much better, because then it can remarket to the people that clicked on product A and looked at product B. Just that's what we usually see. See here, Michael Johnson. Hey, Michael. Hey, John. I run Google Ads for a client with child care centers similar to Montessori schools you guys advertise for. Can you give me some quick tips for generating leads in the industry? Run DSA. 100% run DSA. That is something that we learned very quickly in the Montessori industry. When you run DSA, what's really funny is you're going to find that, because we have a bunch of schools across the nation, the keywords for those schools are different. Now, there is a lot of overlap, obviously, Montessori school near me and those type of things, but the keywords in those areas are different than the keyword or in areas that are let me back up. 2 identical schools, 2 websites, we built them. DSA campaign will actually show different search results and different better performing keywords for those areas, even though they're physically identical, like same website, same campaign, everything. Running DSA will let you know what is the vernacular in that area and what people have the highest amount of propensity to convert in those areas, and then use that to then start a search campaign for that client. So running DSA kind of like learns what's important in that area, and then you start to add those positive search terms as keywords in a search campaign, and then scale that up. So 100%, I would say definitely run DSA. That's the best thing to learn, to gain really relevant traffic, to gain conversions, and to start your keyword strategy. That's what I would say. It's our SOP in Nido. All right, Anthony, have over a few thousand clicks with Google Shopping ads and no sales over last month. I'm thinking the issue is titles are broad match instead of phrase match. We have the lowest pricing. Well, if you're running Google Shopping, you can't necessarily choose broad or phrase in your titles. I'm thinking that you might be saying that your titles are too broad, which could be the case. There's a lot more here that we'd probably have to go through for me to understand exactly what the issue is. But if you're running shopping ads and it's smart shopping and your ecom product ID isn't having an issue, which usually is number 1, if your ecom product ID or ID isn't having an issue and your titles are too broad, definitely add more to the title that would refine it. So instead of like shoe, it'd be, red velvet high heel, but definitely see if titles are absolutely going to be one of the instances that are going to be making it too broad. If you're in the beginning stages, though, run a standard shopping campaign, because a standard shopping campaign will give you search terms, and search terms will tell you if your titles are too broad. It tells you what Google is interpreting your feed and giving you clicks for. So I would definitely run a standard shopping campaign if it's not, you haven't been running smart shopping for a long time and you used to have good performance. run a standard shopping campaign first, look at what Google's giving you as search terms, and just imagine that if you were to get that in smart shopping, it still probably wouldn't perform better. So I definitely run that first to diagnose how Google is interpreting the products in your feed. And that is done by giving you what kind of search terms you're going to get and you're currently getting, because then you're like, wow, Google thinks that I have this for sale. That's not what I have for sale. Smart shopping is just going to exacerbate that issue. So change your title, see how standard shopping starts to interpret your searches. Once that looks better and you start to get some sales, leave it on for a little while, then switch over to smart shopping. Sam, oh my God, thank you, John. Welcome, Sam. Mark, please explain how to set up display ad to target visitors of a competitor's domain. Go into your audience manager, add a new custom audience. The custom audience, you're going to say people who search for this on Google. It's going to say people who search for this on Google. That's where you put the URL there. Not websites similar to, not people in market. People who have searched this term on Google, put the website URL there. The reason is because the URL bar and the search bar to Google is the same bar. So whether they go to the website in their URL or they search for it in their search bar, it's the same thing to Google. So it's a way for you to say, if you have been to this website, I want to target you. So that's what you would want to do, is audience manager, custom audience, people who have searched this term on Google, the URL goes there. Cecilia, hi John. Hey Cecilia, thank you for this Q&A. What is the best match type to use for negative keyword in the competitive campaign? So negative keywords in a competitive campaign, I usually like to use phrase, sometimes exact. It just depends. I very, very rarely ever use broad as a negative, just because Google's latent semantic indexing, when you add a negative keyword of, shoes as broad, it's like, well, shoes, that's kind of close related to socks and apparel, like it can go too broad. So I always use either phrase or exact, just depending upon, how the search term is written. If it's like how to do blah, 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 and I don't want anybody looky-loos like that, I'll take the whole thing, shorten it up to how to, use that as a phrase, and then how to is my phrase, because I just don't want anybody looking at like how to or how do I or how. I don't want those. So I will just add that how to as a phrase or how do I as a phrase. But if it's like I'm getting searches for competitors I know I don't want, then I just take their URL or their brand name exactly, and I'll add it that way. You can also add the phrase match though of the competitor as a negative. So either or is good. I just usually use phrase more often if I need to get rid of any sort of like, I don't want any of these types of searches. Then I'll shorten it up to just the keywords and the phrase that I know I don't want. That can be applied to a lot of different search terms, and then add those as negative. Nuno, hi everyone. Hey Nuno. Let's see. Oh, Cecilia is part 2 of your question. My main competitor sells books and other products which we don't sell. We want to add them as as negative keywords just in case Google decides to show our ads for those too. So your main competitor sells books and other products which you don't sell. Are you currently going after those? Are you currently have a competitive campaign that you're going after your competitor? Because if you are, one way to kind of help that along is by using the keyword of the competitor, but also the product that you do overlap with. And I'll give you a quick example. Let's say I'm a company that sells, and I'm just going to use an example, just very simple. I sell hats, and I have a competitor that sells hats, but they also sell shirts. Well, I'm going to add a keyword as a positive keyword in my competitive campaign of saying competitor hats. So, ABC company hats. So this way, anybody looking for my competitor, and I know they're looking for their hats, I can show up too. And then add the negatives of all of the other products that they have. KL, hi KL. What bidding strategy do you use for DSA and display remarketing? Well, for DSA, most of the time, I'll start with maximize conversions, then move over to target CPA. That's most of the time. If I can't get maximized conversions to work, I'll start manual, then move over to TCPA. Usually for DSA, TCPA works the best, target cost per acquisition, because since it can go far and wide, I don't want to necessarily let it go far and wide, but I do want it to go far and wide enough within a safety net of, you can go kind of far wide as long as you get my conversions under this cost. So that's for that. For display remarketing, most of the time, maximize conversions. Now, if it's e-commerce, I don't run display remarketing with a smart shopping campaign unless that smart shopping campaign has a TROAS goal set. because then display remarketing and maximize conversions are going to scoop up everybody else that the smart shopping campaign with a T ROAS is ignoring. So smart shopping is going to say, hey, I'm going to go after the people that I know I can get a 400% above. My maximize conversions dynamic remarketing campaign is going to go after all the ones that are like $3.99 and below, but I use a smaller daily budget to scoop up those cheap conversions, because hopefully the cart value is large enough that if I make one sale, it more than pays for the daily spend of dynamic remarketing. If it's for lead generation, I will run that thing just wide open maximize conversions. I want that to be aggressive because I know the men on my website and I know that they were interested recently. So I will set a maximize conversions because I need to saturate those people to get them to come back. So I don't necessarily put restrictions on a dynamic marketing campaign for lead generation because I paid a lot of money to bring them to my site and search, and I am going to spend just a little bit extra really aggressively to get them to convert. Implemented the suggestions already. We'll look at the performance next Monday. We'll work on feed this week. Good job, Sam. How to increase the expected click-through rate to improve the quality score. So expected click-through rate, biggest thing that you can do is site speed and bid placement. So expected click-through rate, Google's going to say, well, based on previous history and other competitors and your current settings, we expect this to be low. Now, why is it expecting it to be low? Are you not spending enough per day? Are you not spending enough per click? And is your website speed too slow? So those are the three things that I would focus on. So spending enough per day, spending enough per click, and always look at site speed because that affects all areas of quality score. Well, except for ad relevancy, it doesn't really affect that. But your quality score is directly going to be affected greatly by your site speed and the content on the site. Make sure that the keyword that you're going after is not only in your ad copy, but also on the page. That's going to help greatly. Anthony, I have a local store visit campaign. My search campaign gets 30 clicks a day, which translates to a few phone calls for about $50 ad spend. The local campaign getting 2,000 plus clicks a day, but no calls. Yeah. So local campaigns are good, but they're not conversion driven. They're awareness driven. So what I would say is if your search campaigns are always going to do better because the local campaigns are Google basically saying like, hey, I think this person might be interested in something closely related to your business. And then they just put ads in front of them. And they go on channels that are not high conversion quality. So like display and YouTube, location placements, not the best. Search campaign is someone like, I'm looking to find something. That always has the best chance of conversion because all you're doing is paying a few bucks to put yourself in front of a person looking for you. In my opinion, reallocate your spend flip-flop. So if you're spending 80% on local and 20% on search, flip that. Spend 20% on local, 80% search. The local campaign is going to be good for like continuous brand awareness, but it's not going to be something, in my opinion, that's scalable for conversions, or at least not compared to your search campaign. Your search campaign is going to be way better for that. So I would say that spend the majority, 80-20 rule, 20% on local, 80% on your search campaign. It's just think about the mindset that person's in. To go to Google to look for something, way better than someone whose recent activity made Google think that they'd be interested in yours. Which one would you spend more money on? Contrast, okay, thank you, you're welcome. Might butcher this one, Diraj. Hopefully that's close. What's your recommended for brand search campaign? Can we start from only exact of a brand keyword to get higher conversion, and what to do when so many people are bidding on the same brand name? How to beat them and get possible conversion on the brand keyword. So for brand campaigns, what I usually like to do, I like to run them manually. I'll give you my list. I like to run them manually, and I like to bid purposely a little bit low. Your quality score is going to be better than theirs. So your $2 or $1, $2 bid will normally outperform a competitor's $10 bid on your brand name. Just happens that way. Now you have to massage that a little bit to make sure you're actually getting above like 90% top ABS placement. But if you can run it manually with enhanced CPC enabled and bid purposely low, it will still outrank someone's high bid because their quality score is going to be absolute junk and yours is going to be great. So what I like to use first is if I know that my quality score is good, I will run manual. If I don't know that, I will set a target CPA and I'll set it ridiculously small, like $4 or $5 cost per conversion. That is usually enough to like Google still get a good placement and run aggressive enough to get those inexpensive conversions. And then again, massage that until you know that you're getting a good top ABS placement and it's spending your daily budget. Lastly, one that I sometimes use is target impression share, top ABS placement 100% of the time, and then set a bid at like $3 and just see if you're being outbid. Because it could be someone bidding $100 a click, which might not bid you, so might have to bump that up to 4 or 5. Those are my 3 recommendations. Michael, when you add keywords to a search campaign, do you then add those as negatives to the DSA campaign, or do you let Google? No, I actually let Google do that. I very rarely do keyword sculpting now anymore, just because Google is going to ignore keyword sculpting and try to give the search results to the campaign that is going to perform the best. And what I don't want to do is say, well, you would have went to the better campaign that has more education, but I purposely blocked you, so you had to go back to the bad campaign that had that keyword in there. So I usually let Google decide which campaign to get the search term, because too closely related, even exact matches, whatever campaign's doing better will get that search term. So I don't purposely let it choose. I don't purposely force it to do one way. I purposely let it choose, which usually, and then enough consistency is like, man, this one always just wins, and this one that shows up the same one always loses. Then you can add a negative. But I do very little keyword sculpting now because of that issue. Sam, smart shopping campaign. We sell high-end wallpapers, cover the whole wall. I think our products appear when people search for desktop wallpapers or mobile wallpapers. Yeah, so again, run standard shopping. Just see if you're showing up for that. Smart shopping will not tell you that. So run standard shopping, see if you're right. Add those as negatives. Let good quality traffic come in. Once you start to get conversions, then you can switch over to smart shopping. How do I go about this? Yep, that's it. So pause smart, run standard, add negatives, let it learn about the positives, and then flip over to smart shopping. What Google doesn't know is what's going to convert. And that's why it's just showing you up for anything that it thinks and says, hey, maybe I can try to get a conversion for this. By running standard shopping, you stop that, you isolate it, put it in a bubble, say, no, you're not allowed to go after desktop wallpapers. Oh, okay, good. I'm showing up for more home and residential wallpapers. Good. Start to get conversions. Yep, flip that over to smart shopping. Now it knows. Cecilia, thank you so much, John. You're very welcome. Sauce. Hey, thanks for doing this. You're very welcome. Don't want to put you off track too much, but was wondering the Performance Max campaigns were doing great. Wondering if the Performance Max campaign are doing great. If you guys plan on doing a follow-up video. Yeah, I'm going to. We actually had to shut them off recently. They were horrible. The reason is they worked really well with YouTube lead forms, but were just horrible quality conversions. People were not answering. Daily budget is like $15, like just terrible. When I shut that off, I ran that for another probably $500 or $1,000 worth of ad spend, and nothing came in. I think we got 1. And in the meantime, my main search campaign was just pumping out leads. So I just shut that thing off. And not to say that I didn't give it enough time, but without it going for the easy, fast, cheap conversions, which were junk, it wouldn't run. It would run, but it wouldn't deliver anything. So I actually just ended up just killing it. So we'll do a follow-up for it, but Performance Max was just, if you're talking about lead quality, it was terrible. It generated, 3 times the leads for 3 times less cost per conversion, but they were just all bad leads. So we'll do a follow-up video. I'm not quite done with it yet. I want to actually give it enough chance to actually do something for me to say like, yeah, this never worked or worked really, really well. But what Google saw as conversions and what we saw in our forms, 2 different things. So not the best, not compared to what we were running before. What will increase site speed? Kirby, sorry, go to Page Speed Insights, throw your domain in there. It'll give you, it's Google's tool, and it'll give you a checklist of everything that will speed up your site. What pages, or what images to reduce, what non-functioning CSS to get rid of. It just gives you a whole big list of like, do this, and this, and it'll tell you everything you need to do. Okay, when using smart bidding on search, do you also wait 90 days to switch from maximize conversions? No, I usually see once I get conversions consistently, I'll switch over. So if you get like 5 to 10 to 20 leads per week, then you're good. Then you can switch over to TCPA. Cecilia, how long would you wait until you exclude certain demographic groups if you see results not profitable at all from those groups? How much data is enough? Again, a couple months. It just also depends. Are you making a bunch of other changes and optimizations in the meantime? But if you're not, and you're like, hey, this is going good, but I'm not changing much, not changing strategies, not changing pages, not changing keywords, not changing bidding strategies. If you're not going to change everything else, then I would give it at least like 2 months of good performance and just say, okay, this group just never performs. Either remove it or set a fairly hard bid adjustment of like negative 50% on that demographic. But just know if I'm changing other things as well, was that really bad because of my changes to it, or is because it was just actually a bad audience? So just understand, if you're disrupting the ecosystem a bunch, taking off a demographic is not going to really help. But if you look at just good, solid, consistent performance, and that's always bad performance coming from that demographic, then you can remove it. Do you work on reaching the ROAS goal in Smart Shopping before scaling the budget? It depends. It depends on, since we're an agency, our clients, some people are like, give me anything above 1.5. The other one's like, I need 1,000 ROAS. It really depends on what the client needs, because that's dependent upon the profit margin. What I know is that using or running it for at least 90 days without a ROAS goal, even if it's crap performance, but getting the volume high. The volume, even impressions and clicks to start to get those sales, the volume is what is important before adding a ROAS goal. So do I work on reaching the ROAS goal? Yeah, we work on reaching the ROAS goal starting day one, and we'll scale the budget sometimes in order to meet the ROAS goal. Sometimes you do need to spend more in order to meet that, because you need more sales activity for it to learn faster, for it to get it to start to reach those goals consistently. So again, Google Smart Shopping works the best at $100 a day and more, works the best with 90 days of $100 a day without a ROAS goal. Then by then you're going to know, is this really going to work or not? After 90 days of running wide open without a ROAS goal, at least spending $100 a day, if it hasn't shown some 250, 300% ROAS by then, something else is going on. Which objective is best for starting brand keyword campaign to get higher conversion? I don't really use objectives. I usually like to run it manually, which means it's like, what do you want to focus on? I say start without goal. So none. I usually do everything kind of manually. I don't necessarily like Google kind of choose bidding strategies, but yeah, hopefully that helps. We have a small budget, a lot of competition, really high CPCs. In a matter of clicks, we burn through all the budget. When enabling smart bidding, and we are importing the offline conversions value to Google, however, data we actually have for that particular market has no volume. How can we leverage our campaign performance with those limitations? Man, right in the beginning, a lot of competition, really high CPC, small budget. You need time. Honestly, we have $35 clicks in Google. We spend 20 grand a month. Less than that is not really going to work that well. What Google needs is conversion data. And if you're not giving it enough daily spend to get that conversion data, you're just kind of always stuck in that, like, I need to move to the next level for Google to perform better, but I just can't. It's difficult. I don't know all the ins and outs, so it's premature for me to say that you would need more budget, but just know that I've been doing this a long time without that daily budget being high to compete and get Google the knowledge it needs in order to know how to compete. It might never really, even if you're importing offline conversion values, it's going to be difficult. Google needs to see not an importation of offline. It needs to see online. It needs to see this click did that. Importation is good, but you're slave to only importing it and telling it to good performance when it happens when you upload it. It needs to have that 24 hours a day, every hour. So that's where it's just gonna be really hard. I don't mean to dissuade you, but what I would say is maybe, and we've done this before, if you have a monthly budget of, let's say, 1,000, spend 1,000 in a week, and then don't run for the next 3 weeks. See how that performs, because you'll say, if I were to spend this, is this what is needed? So taking a whole monthly budget and spending it in a week sometimes tells you a lot. So I would suggest trying that, because usually I'll do that, and then I'll, like, if a client says, hey, I have $1,000 a month, I'm like, I think I need 2. They're like, no, here's 1. I'll spend 1 in 2 weeks, acting like as if I'm spending at a rate of $2,000 a month, and say, see how much better performance it was, and now we got to stop. Can you have more budget? It does work. So that's what I would suggest trying. Unfortunately, I don't have any kind of like ninja hacks and saying like, hey, take this low budget and you can compete against, really high CPCs, and you don't have to pay that and you don't have to compete. You do, unfortunately. I wish I had like kind of the hack to make the impossible possible, but unfortunately I simply don't. I think that, yeah, it's high CPCs and highly competitive for a reason. And unfortunately there's very limited spaces in Google. So not to be down, I just want to give you the full transparent. Like if you were to come to me and say, hey, I have this budget, I might be like, I might not take you on as a client just because I don't think that this budget's going to work. That's half the reason why we don't take on clients, unfortunately. I would rather do that than say like, hey, pay me to show you that, I shouldn't have taken you on. Okay. Cecilia, hope you're feeling better from the cold last week. Yep. A little bit of cough left over, but doing 50 times better now, which is great. Thank you for asking. I only have about 7 minutes left, so I'm going to try to get through as many as possible. Do you have agency customers in Europe? Are you using Google CSS in PLAs? Yes, we do have one agency in Europe or one customer in Europe that we consult with. They are using a CSS. I don't know who exactly they are, but did not do any better than what they were doing before with Google CSS. So I only have very limited consulting experience. They said I don't really have experience. They tried it, and all of a sudden their CPCs actually went up, which is the opposite of what should have happened. So that very limited performance, but wasn't like, oh wow, this is amazing. It didn't do anything different for them. Hopefully that helps. So okay, wow, okay, thanks a lot for the feedback. You're welcome, Alfie. How can we set up conversion tracking for someone dials our phone number instead of actually clicking it? Use call tracking metrics or call rails. We recommend call tracking metrics, but that's the only way. Thanks for the replies. You're very welcome. Awesome. Thank you so much. You're welcome. If you're running DSA and search campaign, or running DSA and search campaigns, which match type do you use in your search campaigns? Phrase and or exact, and let DSA be your broad match. Yes. So if I'm running DSA and search, I will use phrase most often, and then any good search terms that are coming in from the DSA get then added to the broad. But most of the time I don't run a broad search and a broad DSA. I will in the beginning sometimes just to kind of feel everything out, but then I very quickly move to phrase on my search and then leaving DSA as my broad. So it's not to say it never happens. It does happen quite frequently just in the beginning, but then I move to phrase. Any strategy I should follow to reduce search impression share loss rank when I have broad keywords in the campaign, hence the search terms? Not really. Don't focus on that, in my opinion. You're always going to rank low because it's going to go 10 keywords in broad can literally be 100,000 keywords. So 100,000 search terms. You're always going to rank low on broad. That's just the way it is. That's by design. You want that. The only way to do that is by changing over to phrase exact and then boosting up the budget. But you're going to run low loss rank. That just means that, hey, I could possibly show up for 100,000 keywords. Well, if you have enough ad spend and you'll want to show up for 100,000 keywords all the time, then your rank's gonna be high. But unless you have, $1 million a day, it's never gonna happen. So don't worry about that. Focus on the results you're getting, not the rank, because your rank might be low, but if you're getting a lot of clicks and they're inexpensive clicks and you're having good conversions, now you have fairly inexpensive conversions. Good for you. You don't have to necessarily pay 3 times as much for those same conversions. Cecilia, having an average CPC of 80, okay, got it. Is a budget of $1,000 a month enough to get performance with 4 campaign type strategy? I've done. So yes, it is. Just know that that's your starting point, that you might need to scale quickly where you're starting to see the results, but it's enough after 1 or 2 months that you should start to see exactly, okay, this one consistently outperforms the other one, but it can be. It just really depends on. If not, it doesn't mean that it won't. It just means that you might be, $300 a month more away from starting to get good consistent performance. So just test it at higher spends. Dan, hey John, hey Dan. I was running a complete broad search campaign with 10 to 15 keywords, and for 4 months I did not touch anything, and it was performing very well for us. Awesome. However, this month the spend dropped from $1,000 to around $200 to $300. Is saying that search volume is low. Got it. What that usually would mean. I've seen this, but it's been a bigger issue. I'm not saying that this is what's happening to you, but what happened to us recently was actually the website updated and my titles and my descriptions were wiped. And I got low search volume, and not only my broad search campaign, but also my DSA campaign and my Google Search Console showed my organic traffic dying. Not saying that this is happening, but check to see if there's any website issues or any crawl issues or anything, because that's the main thing that's going to stop. Is Google can no longer read your page, so it's just not giving you all those search terms it used to do before. Check that first. That'd be the first thing I would check. Hopefully that is a good starting point. I got about 3 minutes left, so I'm trying to get as many through these as possible. Smart Shopping campaign is asking for an increase in daily spend from 100 to 200 promises and 91% increase in conversion value. Will this stall my campaign? No, I plan on making no change till day after day 90, and it's been 2 weeks since I removed the initial ROAS goal. what's going to happen is anytime you increase without a ROAS goal, your ROAS will dip. It will absolutely dip. It's like a 95% chance that that's going to happen. If you can afford the dip to buy the data, then do it. If you say, hey, I can't afford to lose a campaign, increase it slowly. I have a campaign running for custom car tuning. The volume searches are really low and competition is really high. What's the best way to approach this, please? I'd run pure broad with target CPA first. If your keywords that you're choosing are having really low searches, run pure broad with target CPA first and start with a low CPA and then work your way up just to see where that volume comes in. That's the best thing I could say quickly. So that'd be one of my best strategies I would say to try first. To use negative keywords and campaign priority to target specific keywords on Google Shopping. I use almost exclusively Smart Shopping, so I don't use any sort of keyword sculpting in standard shopping campaigns because every standard shopping campaign I've run has been about 3 to 6 times worse than Smart Shopping. So unfortunately, that's and then they don't scale as best as Smart Shopping. So that's my thought there. Hopefully that helps. I would try Smart Shopping. It automatically pushes away low priority keywords and adds negatives for you and really scales a positive. So it's kind of like, would you rather do this by yourself all the time or like Google do it at a much higher scale with a really controllable ROAS? That's what I would say is going to be a big difference. 1 minute left. Am I crazy to think that the display network is finally inefficient and just brings, nope, I hate the display network with a passion. Hate it, except for YouTube. Love YouTube, but hate display network. It just, for me, never, ever works. If average CPC is $7, what should daily budget be? I would say at least 75. Sorry, guys, no worries. Check it on the Search Console. Yeah, Dan, check on Search Console. Check on Search Console. See if your organic traffic is dying. If there's any pages that have errors, Search Console will say, "Hey, Google scanned your page and couldn't see or couldn't find, or this has errors." That's directly going to affect your pure broad campaign because it has DSA built into it. Cecilia, this is brilliant. Thank you for all the answers. Yes, it's awesome. Thanks. Finally, I can rest. Thanks, John. You guys are welcome. It's right now 10:15, and I got to get going. So thank you so much, and I will see you all next week. Love you all. Thanks. Bye.